Entering the ring for the first class heifer junior heifer calf, Colton Boyer, Madison Boyer, and Mackenzie Mills. On deck, Hereford late summer yearling. In the hole, Hereford early summer yearling.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to come here and evaluate your youth today and their projects that they've been working on all summer here. I think we've got a real nice class to start the day out with. I'm going to preface some reasons by kind of telling you that, when I judge cattle, I break it down into 3 categories, and it's very simple. Think of the last good T-bone steak you had. And there's 3 components to that steak, okay? There's a bone in there, there's your muscle tissue, the protein source, and there's fat. And those are really the 3 things we consider when we're judging any livestock. Obviously, when we were talking breeding cattle over here today, we put more emphasis on the bone, the structure, and things that are going there, but we have to have a good structure so we can add muscle mass to that animal. And then we look at body condition in terms of where we might be in terms of females in this case that are easy keeping and will do well on pasture, and in the case of market animals that they're prepared for market. So we've got 3 very different heifers in this class today, and I'll talk about each one of them and the reason I placed them there. We're going to start with this young man up here for first place today, simply from a heifer, to me, that just carries a lot more length and squareness of her skeleton. As this heifer moves into the ring, tracks away from me, she stands on a very wide base, tracks very square, tracks very even on the side view. And what I mean by that is when she steps, the rear leg comes up right about where the front leg left, and so that she has a lot of reach and flexibility. That's important in a heifer that is extremely long as well, that she has that kind of reach. She's very long on her neck, very long down her top side, very long on her hip. And I, for one, appreciate cattle that have a lot of length because we feed cattle as well. And it seems to me that cattle that are longer tend to grow faster. And, so that's profit in our pocket. So I really like the length. So the heifer is very complete from the side view, very balanced. I really like that a lot about her. The heifer that I think is in second, I think is a very structurally correct heifer as well. She maybe doesn't track quite as wide and natural as our first place heifer, but she's very adequate in that regard. I really like her in terms of that. I think she's going to be a very broody type of female. She probably just doesn't express the extension and cleanness of neck as our first place winner, but certainly I really like the rib shape as you work back on her. She has rib in her forerib. She has rib as you work back towards that rear flank, and I think she's still very square from her hooks to her pins, travels really well as you get about her. And both of these are going to make really good cows. Young lady, your heifer that it's in third, to me, is one that maybe is just a little bit earlier maturing than the two that we have in front of her. She's got a little more body condition on her today. I know we like to get them this way to bring them to the fair, but I certainly wouldn't like to see her carry any more cover than that for this age. So here we're talking about fat already in a young heifer. So, I mean, she's a good show condition. She's one that maybe is not going to be as big as these other two, and that's not to say they need to all be the same size, but I think she is a little shorter coupled in terms of being shorter in her neck, a little shorter in her hip compared to the two above her as we get there, but certainly looks to me as going to be a real productive type of female as she grows and develops. So let's give all three participants a nice round of applause for Class 1.
Your class winner was Colton Boyer, runner-up Madison Boyer, third place Mackenzie Mills. Entering the ring, Hereford Late Summer Yearling. On deck, Hereford Early Summer Yearling. In the hole, Hereford Cow Calf.
This is our late summer entry. As you look at the heifer, she's kind of fighting you a little bit on there, but when you get her set, then you can really see, in terms of the structural components that this female has. I just like to maybe spring her apart a little bit in her scale design, give her a little more width in between her rib cage and make her track a little wider. But when you do get her set up on the side, she does carry quite a bit of length up front to her. She's really long down her top side. I appreciate that about her. Where I'd like to change her a little bit as we work all across her hip, going from her hip bone, her hooks to her pins. I'd just like to change that pin set a little bit, make it a little wider, a little square as we get about there. And so we talk about these things in breeding classes because we've got a good productive heifer here. what we want to do is try to pick a mating with a bull that will fix the few things that maybe we need to critique on the heifer. And that's really the whole objective in a breeding program, is to make improvement in the next generation, regardless of what you have. So let's give the young lady a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Aaliyah Eckelbarger. Entering the ring, Hereford Early Summer Yearling. On deck, Hereford Cow Calf. In the hole, Simmental Late Junior Yearling.
Test. There we go. Young man's brought us another nice young heifer. I'd just like to see a little maybe performance in the heifer today. Structurally, in terms of the way she gets about the ring, just kind of maybe change the angle of her shoulder a little bit. She's just a little slight cow hawk as she walks away from you. So those are the things we work on. But the heifer does possess some good shape and roundness to her rib dimension in there. She has some length in her hip. She has some muscle quality about her. So there's a lot of things we can work with here. Let's give the young man a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was William Fry. Entering the ring, Hereford Cow Calf. On deck, Simmental Late Junior Yearling. In the hole, Shorthorn Bull Calf.
Test. Here in your cow-calf division, we've got a mini Hereford and calf. I really like this cow. I think a young man tells me she's 4 years old. She's really in great shape at that age, and for having a 4-month-old calf on her, I think as you analyze her, let's just start front to back and talk about her. She's a very long neck, very well-balanced female that lays in nice in her shoulders. She's extremely long and level across her loin, square in her hip. From a brood cow perspective, her udder is very square, very balanced as you analyze her that way. And you can see that she's doing a real nice job in her lactation. This young bull calf is really square, really thick. Good representation for this breed. Let's give your exhibitors a nice round of applause.
Your class winner for the Hereford cow-calf is Brock Mills. Entering the ring, Simmental late junior yearling. On deck, Shorthorn junior heifer calf. In the hole, Shorthorn late junior yearling heifer. No. So, I screwed up. So this is the Hereford Supreme Champion. So they brought their winners from Hereford. I screwed it up. I'm trying to go above it. Yeah. Well, it's Mike. Hey. There is. Just hang tight. I'll see if I can take care of it here for you. All right. Thanks. Bye. Hey, Dave. Brower. So what do you call this?
This is the final,
Final drag for the
the champion Hereford. Champion Hereford.
Entering is your final drive for your Hereford champion.
Well, let's put your hands together for our Hereford exhibitors. Real nice little show here. For me, we're going to go down here to Class 1. It's going to be our champion today. I just think a really nice combination. Hereford has a lot of skeletal width about her, dimension to her, a lot of length in her, good muscle quality in her. I think she's really the combination of heifer in this whole group. Let's give this young man a hand for champion today. For reserve, I'm going to come down to your cow-calf pair. I think this is a very complete female that you really have to appreciate how she's put together in terms of her balance and structure, really doing the job with this young bull calf. This is a really high-quality mini Hereford when you get out there and see them with all the rest of them. Very correct in her structure and design. Let's give these two for showing this pair here a nice round of applause.
Your reserve champion Hereford is the Hereford Cow Calf by Brock Mills, and your grand champion Hereford is Colton Boyer. Now a Simmental, right?
Yeah, from the call, single entry.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to take off that too.
You got a buyer in front.
This is a real nice Simmental heifer when you get her on the side view. I think she is very balanced. She's extremely long in her spine, a lot of length in her loin as you take her from her shoulder junction all the way into her hook. As you go across there, got some length about her, has some length in her muscle padding. If I could change her, what I would want to do and what I would think about in the breeding program is after you get her calved out the first time, is trying to select a bull that's going to give her a little more skeletal width. She just needs to be a little wider, pulled apart in that chest floor, a little more rib shape and dimension to her, and that would give her the ability to carry just a tick more muscle mass on her. But the pattern, the profile is there. We just want to go ahead and build on it. Let's give the young lady a nice round of applause.
Your class winner for Simmental Late Junior Yearling is Taylor Wolf. Entering the ring, Shorthorn Junior Heifer Calf. On deck, Shorthorn Late Junior Yearling Heifer. In a hole, Shorthorn Early Junior Yearling.
this heifer's really giving the young lady a hard way to go in terms of getting a good look on her when she was. There you go. That's really good. The heifer to me is very complete. All right, she does possess some skeletal width about her. She's very balanced as you get her. She's really clean in her neck and her shoulder design. She has quite a bit of muscle to her. And, you know, if I change her in one place, is when you watch her, you can see it in the stand, and when she walks away, right in her rear leg, she kind of twists out just right at those pasterns and below a little bit. So, you know, that's something with some foot trimming we could probably fix on her, but she's a very complete square heifer. Let's give the young lady a nice round of applause.
Your class winner is Caroline Tilton. Entering the ring, Shorthorn late junior yearling heifer. On deck, Shorthorn early junior yearling. In the hole, all breeds bull calf.
This is a really complete and functional female. As you analyze her, I think you have to say she has both structural design and mobility. And you know, you hope that those two go together really well, and this heifer does it. She really walks away from you with a real square and solid dimension to her. When you get her on the side and watch her track, she really reaches out with her front. That rear leg comes right in there. And so I really like the structural design, the way she gets around her feet and legs. She's still a really nicely balanced heifer, very feminine up front, but when you get behind those shoulders, she just explodes into rib cage depth and width and dimension about her, has a lot of squareness to her as you get over her hip, and a long, smooth, square muscle design. Let's give that young man a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Ridge Whitling. Entering the ring, Shorthorn early junior yearling.
A really nice heifer, one that's a little different than maybe some other ones we've seen today in terms of the amount of overall muscle that this female has for her size. She is extremely expressed in her loin and her quarter when you look at her. And with that said, you know, you have a little different expectation maybe in terms of how a heifer like that might move, but she is very fluid and correct on her front. Where I'd like to change her a little bit is change that hook to pin set, level her up a little bit, because she drops in her pins a little bit, and that tends to make her walk just slightly sickle-hocked as you get in there. But boy, there's a lot to offer with that female in terms of overall muscle and capacity. Let's give her a hand.
Your class winner was Sydney Gray. Entering the ring is all Shorthorn class winners.
Let's go ahead and give your Shorthorn exhibitors a nice round of applause. Some very different heifers in here, but I think we need to look and see one that's very complete in terms of her being structurally correct, one that moves very correct as she gets about the ring, has a lot of volume and capacity to her, and still very square in your lines. Young man with the white heifer will be your champion today. When we go into pick and reserve, then I think you have to go with one that maybe follows the close design of our champion, and one that is long and level and is probably a little more structurally correct. So reserve will come out of our first class young lady with the calf here will be reserve. Congratulate her.
Your reserve champion Shorthorn, Caroline Tilton. Your champion Shorthorn, Ridge Whitling. Entering the ring, all breeds bull calf.
We've got a long way to go on this rascal yet if you're considering him as a bull. I'd probably just like to change him a little bit at the point of his shoulder. Young lady tells me he's a main Angus cross. You can there, so you can see he does have some muscle expression through that shoulder and through his stifle muscle on the side. You can see he is very long and level in his top. Just free him up a little bit off of those rear legs, and we appreciate him a little more. Let's go ahead and give the young lady a nice round of applause.
Your class winner and champion for Breed's Bull Calf is Bergen Linhart. Entering the ring, Other Breeds Junior Heifer Calf. On deck, Other Breeds Senior Heifer. In the hole, Other Breeds Early Summer Yearling.
I think we've got a real nice, growthy, performance-oriented heifer here for her age. Extremely long when you look at her, really long in her neck, long down her top side, has some muscle volume to her that we put on that skeleton. You know, this is a heifer that, you know, when you look at her for age, she's young and she's green, and so calves tend to run downhill, all right? And so the young man, I complimented him for getting the show stick working on her top, because that's where she needs some help a little bit. It's right behind those shoulders. She hasn't filled in yet. She has a little bit more need for heart girth on her right now at this point, but that's something she's going to grow into as she becomes a yearling, and she'll be easier to show that way. But one that's, to me, is going to be a really high performance heifer. Let's give the young man a nice round of applause.
That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Your class winner was Brandon Lewis. Entering the ring, Other Breeds Senior Heifer.
I think the young man's brought us a heifer that we can appreciate the versatility in her. I mean, she's going to be a more moderate frame mature cow as I analyze her and put her together. But I think that she's one that works for me today in terms of being a true breeding heifer, that she has a very modern look to her. She's very beefy, has a lot of width, has a lot of muscle in her, and it's put on a very correct structural design. So I think she's going to make a good breeding heifer, and I still see her as one that you can go ahead and take on and move into your breeding program, and you know, she can work from the breed standpoint as well as one that can produce project steers and stuff for you there. So a lot of ways you can go with her. Let's give the young man a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Ridge Wentling. Entering the ring, other breeds early summer yearling. On deck, other breeds late junior year heifer. In the hole, other breeds early junior yearling.
This is an interesting heifer to kind of pick apart and talk about her. I think one that you can appreciate the femininity and balance on the front end of this female. She's really put together very well. When I get behind her and look down her top, it has that nice wedge shape where she has plenty of width coming out of her shoulder and works back in her hip really well. The few things I'd tweak about her is she just needs to be a little bit longer in that hip. Her tail head comes up out of that hip a little bit, and if she had a little more length in there, it'd probably make her just a tick more fluid off those rear legs. But there's an awful lot of good in this heifer that you can put in a breeding program. Let's give the young lady a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Caroline Tilton. Entering the ring, other breeds late junior heifer. Nope. Just to make an announcement, those that are sitting in the stands here in the show arena, if we're inside the building, please have your mask up. Please practice social distancing. Also, at the conclusion of the beef breeding show, be a short break, and then we'll start the all beef showmanship. Thank you.
I think we've got a couple of nice heifers towards the top end of this class. Just a very complete breeding female here to win it. I think you got to really appreciate her in terms of her overall structural dimension. She's very wide-chested. She tracks very wide, has a lot of rib shape and quality about that all the way into her rear flank. And then you find a heifer that when you stand behind her is very square, very long and deep and correct in her muscle design on that as well. Just a high-capacity heifer that is a combination of structural correctness and muscle. Let's give this young lady a nice round of applause. I think we've got a real nice heifer in second as well. I think she's one as well that carries a lot of depth and dimension to her. I really appreciate the broodiness of her. I think she has a look to me of making a nice young cow all over. She maybe doesn't have quite the amount of muscle dimension, especially up in that loin right behind her shoulder as our class winner, maybe not quite as much in her rear quarter, but still there's a lot of good in that female, one that will go into a breeding program and do real well as you look at it. For third, I went ahead and chose the heifer that, I'm going to admit to you that I want to have more skeletal width in this heifer, but I think she has to be placed here next in terms of structural correctness. A heifer that tracks about the ring, has some balance about her and belongs in there. Then I'm going back to a heifer maybe that has does have a little more dimension to her, but she just simply needs to have more balance. I like to clean her up in that shoulder, make her a little deeper in her quarter, and level her out there as well. Then we went to another black heifer that was next. One, again, that I just like to have a little more of her. The white heifer is one that you can appreciate from her overall length. She just needs to be pulled apart in that chest floor. Give her some more spring of rib and dimension in her, and get those heifers on the bottom of class a little more performance in them to compete up here today. Let's go ahead and give them all a nice round of applause.
Fifth place for Other Breeds late junior yearling heifer, Austin Hendricks. Fourth place, Chad Wolf. Third place, Kendall Thomas. Second, Stetson Windling. First place, Savannah Harriman. Entering the ring, Other Breeds early junior yearling. Just to make an announcement on Showmanship, the age is based on your as of January 1st. On deck, Other Breeds cow calf. In the hole, all champions.
First place for champion.
All first place.
I think here's a heifer that you can appreciate for some of the qualities that she has. I'm going to admit to you, I'd like to see her in a little more bloom today at this age, have a little more structural width to her. But with that said, when you put the heifer on the side view, she's very long on her neck and balance. She's very long on her top and hip. And as I watch that heifer walk away from me, she tracks just as square and true as you want to see one move. She is very, very correct. And so there's what we have. We have the structural correctness that we have in a breeding program. Look for a bull that gives you a little more structural dimension as you go into the next generation, and you can really produce some good offspring out of this one. Let's give the young man a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Caleb Thomas. Entering the ring, Other Breeds cow calf. Another announcement on Showmanship. Approximate start time will be 10 a.m. Starting with the Class 1, ages 17 to 18.
Nice young brood cow here. You can see that I'm going to call her a working mama. She's in her working clothes today, but you can see that she is nicely balanced. She has some depth to her rib shape, both in her forerib and her rear rib as you get about her. Told the young man I appreciate the quality of udder. She is very square and very even in that teat placement on the udder. The teats are correct in their refinement as well. You can just see that, she's putting all her body condition on that calf. The calf's in really good shape. Let's give him a nice round of applause.
Your class winner was Bergen Linhart. Entering the ring will be all first place winners for other breeds.
Let's go ahead and put your hands together for our AOB exhibitors. I think as we went down through these classes, certainly we had some high quality heifers. I talked about them in class. There's some different things I want to change about each one of them. I think that there is one that stands out in this grouping in terms of being more complete, one that I appreciate in terms of having more structural volume and capacity to her, and a whole lot of muscle on her that's still very square and complete. And so she just puts together the things I'm looking for in modern beef production in terms of having capacity, muscle, and being structurally correct to move around the ring. This young lady's yearling here will be your champion in the AOB today. We bring in that second place heifer, and when you line her up here in this other lineup, I think she puts together a little more correctness and balance than some of the other ones we see out here. So we're going to go ahead with the reserve for second place out of that class. Two really good heifers to follow each other in your show today.
Your reserve champion, Other Breeds, Stetson Windling. Champion, Other Breeds, Savannah Harriman. All champions return to the show arena. Just a reminder, at the conclusion of the brief breeding show, we will start the showmanship at approximately 10 a.m. The classes are broken down by your age as of January 1st. Class 1 will be age 17 to 18. Class 2, 14 to 16. Class 3, 11 to 13. Class 4, 8 to 10. Followed by Class 5, Novice B, which is your first time taking a beef project, ages 14 and up. And Class 6, Novice A, first time showers, ages 9 to 13.
I think we've got some really high quality heifers out here to represent their breeds. Let's give these exhibitors a nice round of applause. I think when you get into picking these Supreme overalls, you try to keep in the back of your mind that, we've got British-based heifers that are developed from maternal lines, and then maybe our crossbred has a little more terminal look to her in terms of, some more exotic type breeding that goes into it to pick up some extra muscle and thing, and does that very well. I'm pleased with all four of these heifers in terms of being very balanced in the way they get about the ring. I think we do have two heifers here on the end, though, that certainly have more capacity to them. They have more rib shape and depth to them. They carry more volume to them. I really like that when we can have females that get about the ring and still have that extra capacity. And picking your champion, I think we do have one that's just a little bit more fluid in the way she gets about the ring. That separates her a little bit. And I think she's a little more feminine up front. She's cleaner in her neck, tighter in her shoulder design, more flat in her shoulder design. The young man's white shorthorn heifer is going to be your champion here today. Congratulate him. That's all right. We're going to go ahead and move into our AOB winner as your reserve. I just think yeah, I'd like to clean her up just a tick a little bit in that shoulder, but boy, once you get behind, there is so much good to this heifer in terms of her top shape and design, her rib cage and dimension, and the squareness of muscle pattern that she puts on that frame. There's really a lot to offer in both of these heifers. Let's give them a nice round of applause for a high-quality show today.
Congratulations to our winners, Supreme overall champion, Ridge Wentling, and your reserve Supreme champion, Savannah Harriman.
You guys want a Gatorade?
I'm good with my...
Yeah, please.
Just a reminder, Showmanship will start at 10 a.m. Again, Class 1, ages 17 through 18. Again, your age is based on the January 1st of this year. Thank you. Also a reminder, if you're inside the barn, please have your mask up at all times. Please practice social distancing. Even when you're in the livestock barns themselves, please have your mask up. Thank you. First call, Class 1, ages 17 to 18, all beef showmanship. On deck, Class 2. Second call, Class 1, all beef showmanship, ages 17 to 18. Entering the ring, first heat of the Class 1 all beef showmanship. Last call for Class 1, age 17 to 18, all beef showmanship. On deck, Class 2, age 14 to 16, all beef showmanship.
So what I've done here, we're going to have 2 heats. So I've put 3 people on the rail that are going to come back for the finals. The other 3, since we're continuing the competition, I've gone ahead and gave them my reasons personally to each exhibitor. That's the way I prefer to do showmanship. So parents, you can talk to your kids directly if you want to know what I told them there in terms of their critique. It's been a very competitive show here so far in this first heat. I'm looking forward to the next one. Let's give these kids a nice round of applause working out here this morning.
Entering the ring is Heat 2 of Class 1, ages 17 to 18, all beef showmanship. On deck, Class 2, ages 14 to 16.